Arkham Knight mods are no joke. Well, some of them are, but with people like Minari, GP Unity, and Hanny making actual pieces of art, the community is pretty stacked. But what if I told you Arkham Knight's most ambitious project is currently being put together and you can get a huge amount of it right now? Well, say hello to Wither and Renan, two guys who have undertaken one of Arkham Knight's coolest projects, the Nolanverse Overhaul. I've had my eyes on this project for a while now, since their first release of, well, we'll save that for later, but since they dropped the first part of this mod, I was hooked. I love Christopher Nolan's films and the universe around them, and so when they asked me if I wanted to show this overhaul off in an official capacity, I jumped at the opportunity, and here we are now. So, what does this mod change? Well, everything. Kind of. See, this mod is still in the works, so despite the huge amount of content already out for it, not all of it is done, which means we still have a lot to look forward to. So far though, here's what's on offer. We'll start small but pretty damn cool, the Riddler bombs. Renan, one of the creators of the Overhaul, told me he was a huge fan of films like Predator, RoboCop and Terminator as a kid, which is extremely cool because I'm also a massive fan of those series, and that love for the more sort of extreme stakes and grit of these films led to this Overhaul after Batman Begins came out in 2005, and one of the things they wanted to change was the Riddler's iconic collectible. The issue was, though, there weren't any stakes to collecting them. After rescuing Catwoman, Riddler kind of just hides under the orphanage, and there's no real incentive to collect his annoying little trophies. Well, that is until now, because now they're bombs. As a big fan of the Riddler collectibles, this is so cool. Having actual stakes to collecting these makes the hunt so much more fun. They're modelled like C4 with the same foam that activates the bomb in GCPD in The Dark Knight strapped to the top. This means not only has the Riddler thrown hundreds of tiny bombs around the city, he could detonate them and cause untold destruction. Now obviously these don't actually blow up, that would be pretty impossible to do, but they do serve as a more realistic reason to have Riddler place these all over the city and give an actual motive to Batman for needing to find them. This is a really cool change, but trust me, you haven't seen anything yet. Next up, the man behind the gadgets. No, not Bruce, although I have it on good authority that Dreyamond is currently working on a custom Christian Bale head sculpt for the unmasked scenes in Arkham Knight. No, the man we're talking about here is Lucius Fox. With this overhaul, there are two new versions of Fox made to replicate the look of Morgan Freeman from Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. This is a small change given how infrequently we see Fox in the story and side missions, but boy does it go a long way to add to the immersion of this overhaul. We see Fox enough to the point where it would be really weird if we didn't have the Morgan Freeman look for him, but for those of you interested, unfortunately there will be no Alfred replacer, due to Alfred not actually having an in-game model that's seen outside of his character trophy. Added onto that, he only appeared in pre-rendered cutscenes and over the holographic comms, so nothing can be done with that, but with Bruce and Lucius being changed, that goes a pretty long way to serve the Nolanverse fantasy. It's important to note as we move on here that not only are they planning to change the militia, the street thugs, the billboards, the League of Shadows into the League of Assassins, and more of the hood to match the grit of the Nolanverse, but they're taking huge inspirations from Project Apollo, the cancelled Dark Knight game. This project is possibly as close as we'll ever get to that cancelled game, which we seem to be learning more and more about as time passes, but they can't do it alone. Renan and Wither are looking for help, so if you want to join in on this project, or you're just interested in the project in general, join the Nolanverse Overhaul Studio Discord. This server contains all you need to know and all of the finished projects, and a few more things that I'll talk about today. So join it, get in on the project and tell them I sent you. It really is a community project, so if you have any skills to offer, let them know and get in on this. Back to the mods, and we haven't seen the piece de resistance yet, and there's still a few big hitters I wanted to show you all. Let's take it back to the start. The first mod made for this overhaul by both Wither and Renan, and probably the standout piece so far, Heath Ledger's Joker. Yeah, they just casually made one of the greatest Jokers ever, put him in Arkham Knight, and went, here you go, stick him in your game. This is currently available on Nexus, and don't worry, I've got you, every mod currently available on Nexus will be linked below, and every mod not available on Nexus is in the Discord, so that's where you can get it all downloaded, but fear not, they'll all be available on Nexus in due time, so if you can't join the server, don't worry. Anyway, this Joker replacer replaces the hallucination Joker throughout the game with Heath Ledger's Joker. This includes the character trophies and of course any in-game Joker model, including the flashback Joker who tortures Jason Todd. It's an important thing to mention that to install Joker, you must install him before any other mod you need TFC to install. I made this mistake and had to install all of the mods again, so I can't stress this enough. If you are interested in this project, get Joker installed first. The detail on this model is insane, and you can see the work that went into it, and combined with any of the Dark Knight suits available on Nexus mods, you can get some awesome moments between the Dark Knight and Clown Prince of Crime, although it's probably worth mentioning that there is an extremely accurate version of the Dark Knight suit in the works for this mod pack, so look out for that. Another section of the mod de-Jokerfies Christina Bell, Johnny Charisma and Albert King, and make them look like themselves. Still infected, but not as comicified as usual. Renan has told me they plan to change every character into Nolanverse counterparts, and they're currently working on Scarecrow, which is really exciting. There's no ETA on when this Scarecrow replacer will arrive, but they're working hard and it's coming, and between me and you, I've also seen a Poison Ivy remake in the works. Anyway, I think now would be a good time to mention everything in this overhaul is modular, meaning you can install every part of this overhaul at will without compromising any other mod you may or may not have installed. This also means you can pick and choose which parts you have and which you don't. For example, before having access to the other parts of the mod, I had maybe 3 or 4 parts installed and it didn't interfere with any other part of the game. This also means, unlike conventional AI replacers, you can have multiple installed at once, meaning you can actually have Joker and an upcoming mod together without sacrificing one or the other. It's also all compatible with all of GP Unity's work, which is a huge bonus for someone like me who has all of his Arkham Knight work installed, so I can attest to this firsthand, it doesn't mess anything up. One of the best replacements to come out of this overhaul in my eyes is one I have been waiting for since I got my PC. And that is an accurate Aaron Eckhart Two-Face / Harvey Dent skin, and wow did they deliver big time on this one. This has been through a lot of versions, but version 3.2 seems to be the final model and is the one you're seeing on screen now. Two-Face is probably my second favourite Batman villain of all time, so to have my favourite version of the character now be a villain we can fight in the Bank of Gotham is just surreal. The detail on the model is insane, as is the case with all of the models created, and honestly, this, more than any other mod in the pack, makes me wish for a Dark Knight game. Having Nolan's Two-Face roaming around and being able to recreate the dynamic between Bale and Eckhart in the final moments of the Dark Knight is just, well, no pun intended, but it's too good to be true. The next mod, though, is probably my outright favourite to come out of this so far, and it's the HUD and UI changer. This fundamentally changes the core element of Arkham Knight's HUD, including the save file menu to more accurately reflect the vibe of the Batman Begins game, the bat signal that goes up when you place a waypoint so it shows the Bale symbol, which I do have a tattoo of, by the way, not my only Batman-related tattoo, but the one most pertinent to this video. The glide kick and drop attack icons are changed to reflect the Bale symbol. The gadget selection wheel now gives lore accurate icons to each gadget, which you compare with Minari's Nolanverse gadget replacer for a truly immersive combination. This part also replaces the general gameplay HUD, making it fit in line with that Batman Begins style, going for much warmer orange and yellow colours. It gives the Batmobile radar a new look to better reflect this change, and among a few other things I'll let you discover for yourself, it changes the Gotham's Most Wanted screen to have more realistic looking icons for each villain, giving each mission its own unique wanted poster style design with custom descriptions and images for each mission line. In my humble opinion, this is probably the single biggest mod in the overhaul, and combined with the more quiet but equally as immersive billboard and text replacer, which adds realistic billboards around the world and more accurate company and political campaign posters around the map, it really ties everything together. So if you want a taste of what this mod has to offer but aren't quite ready to commit to the full Nolanverse experience just yet, I'd go for the HUD and billboard replacers and see how you feel. It's probably worth noting that you will need TFC installer to install all mods in this video, aside from Harley and Harvey, but if you've never used it before, don't worry, it's super easy. Simply download the mod you want to use, select the Arkham Knight game file, select the mod folder you want to install after unzipping the file of course, and then press update, and bang, it's in there. Any mod that requires TFC uses these exact installation steps, so don't worry. Any other instructions needed for an install are always with the respective mods, so you'll never really be stuck installing anything. It's all pretty simple. I wanted to mention one of the smaller, more under-the-radar mods of this overhaul, the Militia Vehicle Retextures. This is a simple mod and it does exactly what it says on the tin. It replaces all of the most common militia vehicles with more realistic urban camo versions, which means they'll no longer be bright red. This doesn't affect every single vehicle the militia will throw at you, but it does affect the ones you'll be blowing up left, right and centre for 90% of your time in the Batmobile. But what would the militia be without their commander? Well, fear not, Jason gets a very nice reskin too, bringing him in line with the more realistic military look the militia vehicles take on in this overhaul. Personally, I've always been a massive fan of the Knight's design. I think he has one of the best designs in the series, and Rocksteady really went ham on this look. But I have to say, I think Renan and Wither outdid them here. They give the Knight a more realistic armour set and look, and this replaces every version of the Knight, so in the main story, any playable version, and of course his character trophy. I adore this design, and it's one which does enough to stand out, but remains respectful of both the Nolan and Arkham verses, which is a very fine line to walk, but this mod walks it very well. Finally, the first mod from this pack I ever installed, the GCPD Overhaul mod. This is such a nice change. I always wanted the GCPD to be more SWAT themed in Arkham Knight. I like the idea of SWAT officers going up against and defending against the forces of the Arkham Knight's militia, so to finally have that is awesome. This mod changes the outfits of all officers to reflect the darker outfits worn by the cops in the Nolan trilogy. It also gives Aaron Cash a nice reskin and puts him in more traditional SWAT gear. It also gives the GCPD's fleet of vehicles a nice reskin, making them the cars from Nolan's Gotham and turning the police vans into the SWAT vans similar to the one used to transport Harvey Dent in The Dark Knight after he takes the initial fall for being Batman. Finally, the mod changes something small, but something that made me genuinely smile when I saw it, just for how tiny the change was, but how far it goes in terms of serving the immersion. And I'm not actually going to tell you what this is, I want you to find it for yourself. I'll give you a hint though, check the walls of the GCPD. And so far, that's it. I mean, that's it in the best way possible, because this is still not done, and there is a huge amount of stuff to get your hands on already. It's all super high quality, and again, all of this stuff can be found in the Nolan Overhaul workshop, which I will link below. Whether you want to help out, or just want to see how the project goes, it's a great place to be, and there's some new information and finished work dropping nearly every day at this point. So it's definitely worth checking out and getting involved in. And as I said earlier, the team are looking for anyone who can help regardless of skill level. It's a real community project, so if you can lend a hand in any way, let Renan or Wither know. Anyway, I think that's all I've got for you today. Thank you all for watching, I do hope you enjoyed it. Thank you to Renan and Wither for letting me share this with you all, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.